Dude, remember that time we were at that bar? You know, all like the killer music coming out of that jukebox, that CD jukebox they had, and those girls were sitting around the table, and that guy bumped into that girl and spilled that beer all over her white shirt, and you could see her. Dude, don't you remember those DWIs you got? The fear, how horrible it was seeing those lights in your rearview mirror. Man, don't even remind me about that. Shades. Shades of Clarity channel. How are we doing? Hope everybody had a good weekend. All you fathers out there, hope you had a good Father's Day. Spent some quality time with your family. Sober time. Didn't indulge. You know, again, if you're trying to, get sober, we'll get there. Always consult your doctor. I'm not a physician, PA, all that good jazz. Talk to your doctor before you quit. Okay, what am I going to talk about today? Anybody ever heard of euphoric recall? The definition, it's basically forgetting all the bad stuff and only remembering the good. But euphoric recall is a cognitive bias that describes the tendency of people to remember past experiences in a positive light while overlooking negative experiences associated with some event. Euphoric recall has primarily been cited as a factor in substance abuse and dependence. Individuals may become obsessed with recreating and remembering pleasures of that past, where positive expectancy of outcomes results in the belief that substance use can provide immediate relief. And I think we've all been there, you know. I remember those days, you know, partying like a werewolf, howling at the moon, to, oh, I sure hope that cop does not pull me over. Don't hit the lights. Don't do it. Well, it's bad. But euphoric recall is tied in with relapse because for some reason, and a lot of addictions, it could be gambling, sex, food, whatever. You remember the good and you have the incredible and indescribable ability to forget. Forget the terrible times, the DWIs, maybe the fights you got in, the bars you got thrown out of, the eyes that were black and the teeth that were knocked out, sleeping it off in a jail cell. Can't say that all has happened to me, but you get the picture. You know, if you don't stop drinking, you're gonna end up down there. You know, the three things that happen: sober up, locked up, covered up. But euphoric recall, remembering the good despite the past. And I think that kindling, there's no scientific proof, but I believe it goes kind of hand in hand with kindling. You know, where you can drink fewer amounts of, let's say, alcohol, less amounts of alcohol, and experience worse withdrawal symptoms the next time, and there's a shorter period between the binge and the withdrawal, and you don't have to drink as much. Like me. Take me for example. I may drink for 2 days. A 2-day slight binge, no hangover, but for the next 2 days I feel rotten. And I can only imagine now if I went on a month-long binge and then tried to quit, there's no telling. There could be seizures, delirium tremens. Doubt that, but I've already had alcoholic hallucinosis. But has euphoric recall led me back to this stupid behavior that us people with alcohol use disorder do time and time again, despite knowing the negative effects and what will usually happen, and knowing that it never gets better and it always gets worse. Why do we keep doing it? What triggers us? Euphoric recall can be tied in with triggers. So what do we do to combat this euphoric recall? Well, meditation, mindfulness, cognitive behavioral techniques, grounding. And it's best to approach knowing that you have, when the when the euphoric recall comes on, to approach it with a level of compassion and acceptance instead of suppression. You know, just kind of divert your thinking to somewhere else, accept who you are, accept your imperfections and your character defects, and move on. Instead of just suppressing it, because that will cause anxiety and likely be the trigger for a relapse. But that's just my little dissertation. Hadn't made a video in over a week, so I think it was about time that I made one. And what's a good topic? Euphoric recall. Because I've spoken about it before, but I haven't really covered it. That dopamine, that hippocampus wanting to do the thinking for you instead of your prefrontal cortex, the rational part of your brain said, oh, hold on. That's when that envisioning that stop sign, that may be a form of suppression, but at least you're acknowledging that there's a problem and it's going to keep you from going down to the store. With that said, check out some other videos floating around. Like and subscribe. If you've heard something that you like, I've gotten some new subscribers. The channel's growing. It seems like the fewer videos I make, more people are subscribing. It's not supposed to work that way, is it? But I'm just letting them, cutting down on the output and letting some of my videos sit for a little while and gain momentum. But the strategy I hadn't really tried. But with that, stay tuned. Come back. See you clowns later.